Welcome back to the Stevens Group podcast, where we bring real estate strategy and insights to buyers, sellers, investors, and agents who want to make better, smarter decisions. Today, we're talking about one of the most important and most misunderstood parts of any real estate transaction, the inspection. Joining me today is Dave Cantonese with Legacy Inspection Group. Legacy's been around since 1994. Family-run, multi-generational, and performing both residential and commercial inspections. Dave has seen thousands of properties. He's seen the good, the bad, and the expensive. Dave, thank you very much for coming on the show. Welcome.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
The Legacy Inspection Group's been around since 1994. How has the inspection industry changed since then?
Yeah, great question. I think the key to know is the inspection industry is a pretty new industry. I mean, it hasn't, before the 80s, people weren't doing inspections. So being a new industry, it's changed a lot over the last 20, 25 years. And I think probably the biggest thing I've noticed has changed is buyers' expectations. When we started doing this in 1994, buyers didn't know what to expect. And it was kind of, someone walked through and pointed out problems with the 5 major systems. Now I think the buyer's expecting more of a thorough inspection, more than just the roof, foundation, plumbing, heating, and electric. They want to know doors and windows and appliances and livability. So I think the buyer's expectation has changed a good amount over the last 20, 30 years.
And that's awesome. What does being a family-run business mean to you and your clients?
Yeah, I would say on my end, an accountability to the values that kind of were here when the business started, trying to keep up with the way things have been run for the last 30 years, a responsibility to the buyer, the way they're treated, just overall accountability and value and ethics.
Excellent. So roughly, how many home inspections has Legacy Inspection Group done in a particular year or overall in your lifetime? Do you know those numbers?
Sure. Legacy, I think we're around 30,000 now, since 1995, 1994. I think we're about 30,000.
Yeah. And how many do you do a year?
That's a good question. Now we're doing probably about maybe 2,500.
Wow. That's impressive.
Yeah, thanks.
You get to see a lot of different things with 2,500 different inspections.
Yeah. You see a lot of the same, and then every once in a while you'll see something crazy.
That's awesome. What are the biggest misconceptions buyers have about a home inspection?
I think the one thing I notice is that some people, some clients, some buyers mistake it for a home warranty. They think that someone's going to come through the house in a few hours of the day and be able to tell them everything that's ever happened and everything that will happen again and be able to see behind walls. And that's not what it is. This is just, you're putting the home through a process. It reveals a lot of stuff. It can never reveal everything. You can never be there in a home for one day and know everything. It's just kind of a bit of a protection, but it doesn't replace a home warranty. Things are going to happen. There'll be stuff that couldn't be discovered in an inspection that the buyer is going to find out about too.
What are the top 3 things that you notice at a home inspection that are issues that most often come up?
Sure. Here's kind of a broad range, I would say. Plumbing issues, electrical issues, and then issues with the windows. And I'll tell you why. Being windows is an easy one. There's so many moving parts. Open, close. You got casement windows, slide-by windows. There's a lot of moving parts. Never a major issue with them, but really common to have windows that don't work, especially in older homes. Window technology over the last 50 years has actually come a long way. And then plumbing and electric, I'll tell you why, because it can be, people can monkey around with it on their own. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's going to try to replace their own furnace, hopefully, mostly. But everybody thinks they can do their own little plumbing and electric, and you can make it work, but it doesn't make it right and it doesn't make it safe. So I would say those 3 things are real common.
Are today's homes built better or worse than homes you've seen in the 80s and 90s?
Sure, that's a good question. And I don't think there's a rule of thumb for it. I would say it depends on who built it and the quality of the materials they use. And you can go, there's certain builders you can go, beforehand where you go in like, oh man, we know what we're going to find here. They always skimped on windows, or they cut corners on this or that. And then there's certain builders you can kind of be like, hey, they do a pretty good job overall. It's not going to be perfect, but you can kind of tell. The building materials that were used 60s, 70s, 80s, the lumber, you can't recreate that today. So stuff like that is I think the lumber used was a lot stronger back then, but also now plumbing and electric codes have advanced a lot where it's a lot safer and safer than it was back in the 60s, 70s, 80s.
What are some small things that turn into really expensive things later on if they're ignored?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's a lot of things, deferred maintenance. Okay. When you have like a chimney that starts to, the bricks start to crumble. If you take care of it right away, not a big deal. But once things are left to deteriorate, the cost of repairing it goes up over time. So deferred maintenance and small plumbing leaks that turn into big plumbing leaks and cause problems on the inside of the home and do more damage.
So you get to see a lot of different things. What do you think are things that actually kill deals, and what shouldn't? What are things that arise that should not kill a deal?
Yeah, I'll tell you a real common one is mold in attics. Okay. People freak out about it, and they, when people hear the word mold, they think, oh, it's a huge health concern. And that's a misconception. Most mold is natural. It's the same as any plant growing. There's a small percentage that are toxic or unhealthy unless you have severe allergies. But to just general people, mold for the most part doesn't hurt it. Mold that's in your attic, it's not air you breathe. If your attic's properly ventilated, that's air that is not making its way into the home. When you have mold in an attic, what it's telling you is that there's something off with the insulation and ventilation for the attic. Either you don't have enough insulation and you're getting hot air seeping into the attic, turning to condensation, or you don't have enough ventilation where moisture is building up in the attic. So if you just treat the mold in an attic, you're treating you're not treating the cause of the problem, you're treating the symptoms. If you see mold in an attic, you got to you got to improve your insulation and ventilation, but it's nothing to freak out and run away from.
And what are things that people should run from?
The only thing
horizontal cracks in a foundation.
Right. I'll tell you that. If you have a foundation issue, that would be personally the only reason I'd walk away from a home. Anything else, plumbing, electric, it can be fixed. Foundation issues can be fixed, but it's a lot of money, and it's like you open up a can of worms. Once people start opening up walls and everything, you just don't know the extent that's going to be. That's the only reason I'd ever run away from a deal, is if you had foundation issues.
What is the most expensive surprise that you've seen?
Yeah, I'll tell you an expensive one, and one that can be pretty common is sewer issues. Okay. Back in the day, the way we used to try to discover sewer issues is we just run a lot of water, okay? And what we would see sometimes is you're running a lot of water, and then all of a sudden the drains start to back up. It's a mess, and to fix it, they got to dig up the yard, okay? So you're talking, now it can be like a $20,000 problem. Fortunately, now we've got, most people get a sewer scope done. You put a camera down there, because the problem with just running water is you don't know if it's winter or late summer, you don't have roots growing, you don't see it. So there could be cracks and stuff in there that just running water you're not going to get, or if the cellar just had it rotted out, you're not going to see the roots. When you scope it, you can see the cracks in the line, but sewer problems are messy, they're not fun.
Excellent. How's a commercial inspection different from a residential?
Yeah, definitely. And I think when we do commercial inspections, we kind of try to focus on the buyer. Hey, what if it's a 3-flat, hey, are you going to be living in this floor, renting the other 2 out? Or if it's a 30 unit building, where a lot of the focus is on liability. Okay. Hey, what, as a landlord, what are your liabilities, safety issues from from tenants. Okay. Whereas, a home buyer, they're a lot of time they're looking at, well, how well do the doors work? And, do I like this oven? Whereas a landlord buyer, they've got rentals and livability and health and safety issues. Yeah, exactly.
Are investors typically more rational about inspection findings than first-time home buyers?
Yeah, I would say, and not even just first-time home buyers, but people buying to live in it are looking at a different set of things. When you're buying a house to live in it, it's personal. It's where you're going to be spending your time for the next, 10, 20 years, however long you're living in there. So, you're looking at it from a personal point of view, whereas an investor's looking at it as a business standpoint. They don't fall in love with the property. They make sure the numbers work on it. Yeah. So definitely.
So for our agents that are listening, what makes an agent easy to work with during the inspection process?
Yeah, I'll tell you this, because that's a great question. I think just staying out of the way of the inspectors, let them do the job they're being paid to do. Sometimes you'll get realtors, agents that want to, really want to do their job good for their client, which is great, but they think that means, getting involved in the inspection.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. I could see where you'd see that, but a lot of times the inspector is trying to, it's a creature of habit. Hey, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this in this order. And sometimes if you mess with that, it actually makes the inspection a little bit weaker. It throws them off his game.
Yeah. I've always, with my clients, try to tell them, just come for the last hour.
Yeah.
And then they'll walk through everything, but let's stay out of their hair. Or if I'm there and they're there, my job is to kind of distract them, let's walk through the house, do other things, leave the inspectors alone while they're doing their job.
100%. But the inspector, you want them to work. They definitely need to work with the client, but there's a time and place for it. So they're doing the working part of it, great. And then there's time. Okay, let me take you back through. And that's actually, as an inspector, the second time through with the client, you're going to see more, because you're looking at it differently than you're kind of working on your report the first time, thinking in your head, what do I need to report? The second time, you're kind of talking with the client and you take a second step back. So it's getting a second look at that point.
What's something agents should prepare their clients for before the inspection day?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There are going to be problems. There's always problems at an inspection. I think some people think, I remember there used to be the old saying, hey, did it pass inspection? There's no pass or fail. There's always going to be problems. And like I said, unless it's a issue with the foundation, there's nothing that can't be worked through. But just be prepared. There are problems. They can all be dealt with.
My favorite part of this conversation is rapid fire. Older homes versus newer homes.
I'd go with older homes.
I like it. Crawl space versus slab.
From a home inspector's point of view, go with a slab. It's a lot cleaner and easier for the inspection, but nothing wrong with either one if you're a buyer.
Biggest red flags that buyers ignore?
I would say, window issues. People go through a home, they don't really look at the windows. They're one of the most expensive components of a home. If you ever replace windows, you're talking about $1,000 a window, 20 windows. It's up there.
Best advice for someone buying this year?
Call Chris Stevens with the Stevens Group and work with Legacy as your home inspector.
I love it. Dave, thank you very much. Wealth of knowledge, and glad we're able to do this. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Dave, I appreciate you coming on. Inspections aren't the glamorous part of the real estate transaction, but they might be the most important part. If you're buying, selling, or investing, understand the condition of the property is a non-negotiable. And working with an experienced inspection company, especially one that's been around doing it since 1994, matters. If you'd like to connect with Dave and the team at Legacy Inspection Group, we'll include their information in the show notes. And as always, if you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing, reach out to the Stevens Group. We'll see you next time on the next episode.